Okay, good evening and welcome to the Orange Board of Finance special meeting. It's Monday, May 9th. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:38. And we'll start by having everyone introduce themselves, beginning on my right.
Kevin Moffett.
John Cifarelli, Finance Director.
Joe Nuzzo.
Jim Leahy.
Ajit Jain.
Kevin Houlihan, thank you. Okay, item number 3, public dialogue. There's no one here from the public, so we'll move on. I'd like to wait for Kevin, who's going to be late. So John, what would be the easiest thing to switch up? Move item number 10 to item number 4 and approve the minutes now? We can do that. Is there a motion to do that?
Sure. So moved.
Motion by Joe, second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Okay, great.
All
So
right, so you're looking at the meeting minutes revision 2, John?
March 21st, 2022,
Deb, is
regular
this the one?
meeting.
I just want to get them up on the screen. 21?
21 will be the first one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Got them up on the screen.
And a
John,
little
you batting lead off?
explanation on this one. We've already approved it, but then I go back and I use the minutes as our backup for certain things with the audit. And I realized that one of our motions that night didn't get into the minutes. And I spoke with Deb, and sure enough, she had it on her notes, but it, for somehow, didn't get transferred in. So if you look on page 2 in the red at the bottom, there was a motion made to transfer $108,000 from the police salary line item to purchase the 2 police vehicles. And as you know, our bylaws don't allow me to move salary without your approval. So when I was going to do that, I used the minutes as a backup for approval. It gets handed to the auditors for okay. I realized it wasn't there. So we need to add that motion and then repass the minutes.
We don't have to have a motion to revisit the minutes first, John? I don't know Robert's Rules of Order that well.
I don't know if we do. I'll defer to the chairman.
Great.
What do you think, Kevin? Because otherwise it's,
I think we would need a motion to amend, well,
To
that's what we're
amend
doing,
the-
to amend the minutes of March 21st.
so that gets us into doing it, and then we do it, and then we approve it.
That works. I
Okay,
think that
I'll make a
works.
motion that we have to go revisit the meeting minutes of March
First.
March 21st.
A second by Ajit. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, unanimous. Now we can
Now we can edit them.
fix those
Now-
minutes.
Now I think all you have to do is make another motion to add this in the red to the minutes and vote on that, and we're good.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, unanimous.
Okay,
That's
that one's
taken
good
care
now?
of.
Deb?
Good. So file
Thank you.
that as second.
10B, March 28th,
Review
2022,
audit or
special
something.
meeting.
Which one are we on? March 28th. Deb, I'm not seeing the, oh, here it is here. Special meeting minutes on the 28th. Here we go.
Okay, on this one,
Yep,
on page 1, under item 3,
right.
board members were also, I don't know what I wrote here. Give me a minute. Oh, where it says Munis, that's our support for the year. I think we should add that. Munis maintenance support.
This is in the first paragraph, John?
In that first paragraph there where it says,
Munis
these
maintenance
items
support.
were,
Okay.
which includes school Chromebooks, it
Yep.
just says Munis. I would add Munis maintenance support,
Good.
okay? And then down the bottom there, the board members will also,
I don't think you, I don't think you need
something's
the word
wrong with
also.
that, yeah.
Take off the word also and read it again, John, see if that works.
Oh, you know what it is, the board members will take OBOE, we're told that OBOE will reduce their budget by 20,000. So I would take out that request, and then, which at the end, which may come out of their legal line item. They didn't know where it was coming out, so I know legal line item wasn't mentioned. So it should just say, the board members were also told that OB&E will reduce their budget by 20,000.
I
Does
think
that
that's
make
good.
sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because I don't remember us saying they have to take it out, they.
Yeah.
Right.
Here's the deal.
Okay, then on top
Even
of
worse.
page 2, that number there is wrong for the capital item. Mr. McNamara made a motion to approve, it should be 242,512.
And this is the 28th, John?
This is the 28th, yeah.
Okay, let me just
Yes.
fire away here for a second and check around.
Okay, and then underneath, where it says the town there, 29,104, that should really be 29,108, 714. And then that gives us our budget number of 78,367, 690, if you want to total those up. And that's all I had on those for that 28th. Sorry for that little confusion at the beginning there.
Okay, I'm good here.
The fund balance at 12.5%, that's in just below in item 4. Did we say that? I mean, 12.5 is our minimum.
Yeah, I
That
don't
we
think that's where
set.
they are.
That's our,
So the fund balance minimum, or I guess is that, should we, instead of at?
I would,
Some of this stuff doesn't make sense to me, right? This paragraph.
I think I would say the board has a minimum fund balance at 12.5%, or,
Well, we have a policy.
we
to
have a
keep-
policy.
Policy to keep the fund balance.
The
but-
fund balance at, the Board of Finance has a policy to keep to have at least 12.5%
In the
as
fund
a
balance.
policy, right?
Well, that's true as
Something
a
to that
sentence,
effect.
John, but here's the deal. That sentence and the sentence that follow it are not connected. There is no way you get the AAA credit rating because you're only at 12.5. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, as you know,
So-
it's a lot of things.
If you wanted to say
I would
something-
say this is one of the things
This is one of
that
the,
allows the town to
one
have.
of the factors, one of the criteria.
Right,
That allows I would put this. The sentence about our policy at 12.5% is one thought. How about this for the last sentence? Having a strong fund balance helps the town to continue to have a AAA credit rating, because it isn't 12.5, right?
right.
So I think if we change
That's why you
Deb,
should
the
say
front end of that
policy.
sentence a bit like that, how about that? Everybody good with that? Okay. I mean, I know we do the motion at the end, but I just want, yeah. Kev, you were on a roll there for a second, what do you got?
That's all I got.
Okay, Joe?
No, good,
Ajit,
yeah,
We
good.
good? Good? Ron's around? Okay, I'll throw out a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting or on March 28th as amended.
Second.
Second by Ajit. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, unanimous.
I abstained because I was
One
here.
abstention.
That's right.
Yeah, you were someone much better,
Can't
right?
believe you got that tan just from the wind.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
I haven't been out there, so that, and I had a visor on too, but even still.
Yeah. So we're back to the agenda then, Kev.
Okay, so
April
now,
21st, 2022 budget hearing minutes.
okay, I have some minor ones here. Under staff that attended, I think we should add Bob Britton, town engineer, and
Yep.
Mary Shaw, town clerk.
Good?
There are a few
She was
other
there?
people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought she was in Italy or at a hockey
No.
game.
She might have wanted to be at a hockey game. Page 2. Oh, boy, it's voted.
Okay, let me get.
We should say, it actually starts on the bottom of page 1. It says, "The Orange Board of Finance voted unanimously to approve the town budget with a 2.96%. I think you got to add the word increase there.
Hey, John, can I ask you, oh, here it is here, minutes up here, Deb. Thank you. Where are you, Johnny?
Top of page 2.
Thank you.
See that 2.96?
Yes.
Add increase after it.
Should we add in spending? Because now I think about it,
Yeah, you could do that.
you know, with taxes going down 1.5,
Well, I think if you put in the word, to approve a town budget with a 2.96% increase, I think that kind of,
okay.
I think it kind of says it, but if you want to add in spending, fine.
I just think, because we're not increasing taxes
Increase in spending.
2.9%.
Increase in spending sounds better.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
increase in spending, all right, I'm in.
Okay, then down under number 3, town budget overview, the very last line, 20223, we just need to correct that.
Okay.
And that was all I had.
I apologize for taking a picture of that and not being able to see anything on the picture, Deb, after I handed you the sheet with the people who had spoken, so I could do better next time, that's for sure. Okay. Okay. Anybody else?
I just had one spelling mistake, Deb, under the Amity, Dr. Byers, Dr.
What page
Byers.
we on, Joey?
Page 2.
Two, thank you.
Dr. Byers acknowledged with a D, the many board members present there.
Acknowledged. Give me another minute, Joe.
So wait a minute, so look, under town budget overview, 3.2, based on sector, Amity led by a 59% increase in the 22-23 budget, followed by the OBOE at 30%. I mean, of our increase, they're almost 60%, is that what we're trying to say there? The Amity increase?
Yeah, there was, Jim did a chart, and it
Okay.
showed that out of our budget
Of the
increase,
increase.
Yeah,
Amity
59% of
got
it was on there.
Got
Okay,
it.
so here's how we're gonna say that, Joe, you're onto something for sure here. It was not an 59% increase in the AMI. What it is this. I would take out the words, based on sector and just leave that off. That doesn't help anything.
Based on-
Amity, we need something to bring, this is just to get my tongue rolling here, and you guys can edit, this is a V1. Of the overall budget increase, Amity had a 59% share of
Yeah.
that increase. Okay, of the overall 2022, 2023 budget, matter of fact, I can show you the chart and we can figure it out right now. It's right here. It's this chart, right? That's what we're talking about,
Yeah.
right? And so what we had is a pie of all the increase, which was 253,661, all right? Of that number, everybody got a piece. The town had a piece, debt went down, Orange BOE had 674,444, and the Amity had 1,339,111. So you take that total, and Amity's share of that total was 59%. That's the concept that we're capturing here, right? So back to the notes. All right? You could even say, Deb,
So this doesn't add up to 100%, how do you
It's probably just rounding,
No, much more than that.
oh, you're talking about, yeah, well, what she didn't do is she didn't put the other percentages.
What
And
exactly?
on the chart that I used, I didn't give the other percentages, I actually showed the exact amounts as you remount. Oh, wait a minute, you had to teach that night, I'm violating you, apologize as you. Yeah, so I think what you say here is, in the 2022, 2023 budget, so flip that to the front end, Amity's share of that had a 59% share of that increase. I think that's
Yeah, that makes
that's
sense. Yeah,
what
that
that
makes more
chart
sense.
said, right, guys? You know, followed by OBOE at 30%. Oh yeah, I did have it on that chart, Deb, you're right. I had it off to the right here, right, guys? Let me throw it on full screen, we can see it. Right, over off to the right? So there's where, yeah, and it came up to 104, and then 5 was 99 for a minus, and then it's the decimal points in the, you know, had we had the decimal points in there, it would have rounded. It obviously comes to 100%, right? It's just when they did the rounding, you're off by 1 sometimes. Okay?
In that same paragraph, that you have followed by Southern Connecticut Gas, Southern Connecticut period gas company,
Yeah.
so remove that period there. Followed by Southern Connecticut Gas Company as number 2. Yeah. Is it May 11th or May 18th to vote?
Yeah.
May 18th, isn't it?
It's May 18th.
May 18th.
I got that, yeah.
The town meeting is the 11th.
Yeah.
Joe, you're on a roll.
I'm rolling there today.
Okay.
For not being there, I'm rolling.
Right,
wasn't-
yeah.
We were trying not to
I
say
won't
that,
say
you know,
anything.
you weren't teaching that night, Joe. But you had to qualify to, you had a late slip or whatever you call it. Anything else, Joe?
That's good.
Good? Kevin?
Good,
Good?
good.
Everybody else? Okay, good. So Deb, you good?
Is there a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
All right, good.
Kevin, is there a second?
A second.
Second by Jim. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, unanimous.
I have to save this as before now.
Well, hold on, I think you had,
Want me to abstain?
yeah,
I
you
can
need,
abstain,
yeah,
definitely.
if you weren't there,
Yeah,
so,
we need
So we'll have 2 abstentions.
yeah.
So 302. Perfect.
All right, so we'll just go back to the front end and make that 4, and remind us later that we have to make some adjustments.
Nice healthy comments at the meeting, huh? It's good.
Okay.
All
Not
right.
sure they were appropriate for there, though.
So since we're
Okay.
still missing Kevin, I'd like to then move,
Go to 11.
oh, all right, we could go to 11.
Expense reports?
I was gonna go to 8, but we could go to 11 because we should probably want him here for 8.
Do we need to have a motion to
Yeah,
do
we
that,
need a
Joe?
motion to move
I'll make
11
that
to be the
motion.
new number 5.
And speak of the devil,
Gentlemen.
hey,
Oh,
Take
so
care.
let's cancel that motion.
let's cancel that motion. We're going, yeah, we can do that. We was, Kevin, to
Nobody
catch up, we
seconded.
did a couple of things like notes,
Yeah,
and then we wanted to save 4 and 5 for when you got here,
okay.
because that might be what we would value
Well,
your.
4,
input
5,
on.
6, 7, and 8 are, you know.
Yeah.
all-
Well, it's the chairman's prerogative.
Okay, so then let's go back on track. So the new number 5, Amity update, Joe. We'll combine it with number 5, the vice chairman's report, Jim. And Joe, I understand you had a meeting this evening.
Yeah, we did. We had, Emory Finance Committee met this evening to do our normal monthly business. And surprisingly, the voting, the results of the vote were not part of that agenda, so we made it part of it afterwards. So I'll talk to you about that in a moment. But a couple of things, we talked about a few things today. The quarterly performance of the Emory pension. As you know, the market has been hammered the last few weeks. So the first quarter, results were down 5%, -5%, 5% for the 1 year, 10% for 5 years, and 10 years, still 9% return for the pension. So we're still doing okay, but the quarter is certainly down, as we all know.
And
Emory
next
OPEB
quarter will be worse,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I know. Total ending market value of 17.4 million in the Emory pension. OPEB has 3.2 million. A quarter, same thing, quarter down about 4 or 5%. 10-year average return 10.5%, so again, still okay long term. Second Severance has a balance of almost $800,000. Quarter down 5%. 7-year return 7, and 10-year return 7.5. So the overall long-term still doing okay. The short-term we're getting a little hit, as we all are in our investments. Made a few other motions today to approve the insurance consultant. They're going to stay with Brown and Brown. And the comment made in here was that approximately 50% of their public entity clients are self-insured, as is Amity. So that's a good thing. It was noted in there. So that budget amount was $31,000 to keep Brown and Brown for a 3-year contract in there. Option of a 2-year extension. And they talked about snow and ice removal, sanding services as well. That was approved. Trash and recycling services as well. Site-based grounds maintenance. That's going to stay with Sports Turf of Connecticut for $220,000.
220?
$220,000. Yeah,
Wow,
that's
I can
the,
remember that when that was under
Yeah,
200.
It was cheaper, less expensive. So the trash service will stay with All American Waste of Enfield, about $49,000 there, trash and recycling. I'm talking about asphalt, crack sealing services as well, mostly in the high school level there for that work that's being done there. As we know, it's been going on for years. So that was approved, the motion was approved. We approved the motions all at once here for those. Athletic training services as well. That's awarding that to Rehab Associates for $6,000 a year for 1 year. So $66,000 for 1-year contract there. Nothing major happened over there. We just had the health food program statement, which we do every year for the Board of Ed to confirm participation in the health food program, cafeteria program. And as far as the surplus year-to-date, we have about $800,000 plus in there. So there's about $850 right now, year-to-date, which includes a 1% transfer account, which we've seen. They moved it up above, as they still have. And the surplus is about $348 through April. So maybe we'll get $1.5 million-ish or so. Let's see how that goes. But and to be noted is that the medical account is about break even now.
So it was above,
It was
now it's
above,
coming
it came
back.
back, yeah, it came back. The medical now is a break even at $21,000. That's it. It's about 100.5% right now, with May and June still to come. So the surplus does not seem like it's going to come from there for now. Not much anyway. So again, going back to people catching up, going to the doctor, post-COVID. So let's see how it goes. And that was that there. Nothing else major was discussed. So at the very end, we talked about their plan. So the ABOE was meeting after our meeting, and the parking lot was pretty full. So they were waiting for a lot of comment from taxpayers. And I guess there's a lot of conversation about the diversity, equity, and inclusion, hiring of that individual, that position, among others that are being hired, with the student population declining, as we've all noted over the years. So we'll see how it goes. I guess right now it's about $2 million increase, which is the 4%. And again, I'm thinking that 2% or less is going to be real. I don't know if they'll get down to 0.4 without a lot of pain, but they're meeting tonight, so we'll see how it goes. They said we should have to do another referendum in 2 more weeks.
Yeah,
So
May
another-
24th.
Yeah, another vote in May.
3.99 is where they were.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're gonna have to bring it around a lot.
I'm thinking you gotta cut at least in half. Cut at least in half. That's what I'm thinking.
Will the 18th, that vote be postponed also?
No,
No.
we're gonna cover that in my
Oh,
slides,
okay.
but I wanna have this open conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin, what makes you say that, and I'm really prompting you?
Well, because Amity is part of that, so we'll be voting on a number that was shot down.
Yeah, we talked
Yeah.
about that briefly, so we have to hear
Kev,
what
you
you
have
have
to
to say
have
about
your
that.
mic on, just leave it on, I think
Yeah.
would be the best approach.
Yeah, my thought was, or my concern was, the number that's in the budget now is what was presented and was voted down, so that's a bad number now, so do we vote around that?
Well, I have a slide that talks to it in my
Okay.
presentation, But the answer is, well, I'd
No,
rather wait till we're
yeah,
on your slide.
but we can talk about it in
comment
depth with the slide, but we have to, and hopefully the townspeople come out on the 18th and vote yes, so that we can get our tax bills out, because that's critical to get them out in June and not be delayed.
Right.
Whatever Amity does, we just won't be funding them that money, the town will save it. And back in, what was it, 2000, 2001,
2001. Don't you revert back to the original budget? Right?
If they don't pass a budget, it goes back to last year's budget is where
Right.
they're funded,
Right.
correct?
That's what
And-
we did,
And
yeah.
that was back in the day, yeah.
That was
when we-
2001.
When that,
Well,
Amity got
16.
voted down 18 times.
I think it
or-
was 16 times,
Yeah.
yeah.
And-
18.
and-
Was it 18?
And Orange
18,
was,
yeah.
was approved, and we just never, their initial budget that they wanted, they never got, and the town saved money, and Bethany and Woodbridge saved money.
Right.
But that's hopefully what happens next week.
Just
because we need to get
remember,
those bills
when you go to vote for our budget, you're not really voting for Amity, it's just a plug item in our budget.
Correct.
So we gotta make sure the taxpayers understand that when the time comes, or when you do your presentation,
Well,
or even
no.
Wednesday night when you do your little thing in front of the
My
town
few
meeting.
words.
Yeah, but there has to be crisp, be clear, and I'm way all for this kind of dialogue, but it's kind of like teaching, right? And I'm basically fundamentally a teacher, really, when you get right down to it. Words are great, right? But when you see a visual, words match the visual. That's why we're doing it on the screen, right? So that people at home watching on OGAT kind of connect the visual. But what I've heard here is this team is very clear on what we want. We want the town budget passed, right? But by passing the town budget, that doesn't mean you approve of the Amity budget. The Amity budget is totally separate, and what I did over the weekend with the assistance of other members of this board is come up with a list of what I called FAQs. And I'm gonna present them tonight, a first draft of the FAQs, so you guys can edit them, because I just wanted to bring you something on paper on just that issue, Kevin, that you raised. Because it could be very easily confusing, particularly when there's emotion involved, right?
Yep.
Or very strong feelings involved. So I just wanted to mention that. There you go.
It's all yours, Jim.
Okay, good. I can share this with you, and I can share it, it's also on the website. So we'll just get right through it. And if it's up on the screen, that's great. Let me just do duplicate slideshow here, so I can see it. Okay, great. Here's what I want to do. I want to summarize two views of the Amity budget. Kevin, this is what you were just talking about. Okay. In other words, I'm just telling you what I'm going to go into in this presentation. The ABOE view of the budget and the Orange Board of Finance's view of the Amity budget. I want to present the Amity budget referendum results from last week. I want to clarify upcoming budget vote referendum, the town budget and the Amity budget. That's what we just were talking about, right? And I'm calling the Amity budget referendum next, the Amity budget referendum number 2, to identify it as distinct from what is already passed. That's all, why I use that language. Fourth item is to explain what our rationale to support up to a 0.41% increase for the Amity budget for next year. We've been hearing a lot of, there's actually been some letters, unsigned letters, I'll say, out to the Amity community on Amity stationery, but no one's signing them. But we'll be happy to explain that to all of the taxpayers in the town of Orange, whether they are people at Amity or not. Students at Amity, that is. I want to show all of you where our, and people at home, where the Orange Board of Finance documentation is on the town website. Over the last couple of months, with the help of Paul Mangello and John and his team, I was able to learn how to put files up there, and that helps people be able to locate what we were doing on a particular day and what some of the relevant materials were. And then we'll review the path forward. So that's what I want to do in the next 15 or so minutes. Okay, 2 Amity budget views. Kevin, here's the way I summarized it. Please comment, everybody. I put the 2 budgets percentages up there, 0.41 OBOF and 3.99, that's the one that did not get passed. and what the amount of the increase was. The amount of increase of 0.41, Joe, is $211,963. The increase, as you correctly mentioned, a little bit over 2 million, if at 3.99, 2,062,754. The difference is 1,850,795 if my Excel worked right, okay? So that's the two views of the budget, all right in play right now. This is very important for people at home if you haven't seen this chart before. It looks busy, the numbers are on the right, but if we go over to the left and just think about your own home budget, I think it'll become very clear. As we have been, and you know, this happens to be actual numbers for Amity for fiscal year 2021 and 21-22. The green bar is what was, how many million was budgeted in fiscal year 2021, what was the amount budgeted in 21-22, and you can see both a percentage increase. What you do not see is you do not see at certain moments in time until you have the actual surplus, what the increase is from what you spent in a year, which was less than your budget. You actually spent only 47.7, so you actually have more than that little tiny increase as what you have incremental. To visualize it even further, I tried to say, okay, that increase is in pink, I guess you could say. That's your dollar increase, which is the 1.8% increase that was from budget to budget. But when you say, what did you spend last year to what you have to spend in the following year, you can see that it's a massive number in terms of a percentage increase. Now, first of all, do I anything I need for this board to questions from me? Because I've been using this as a means of communication, and I just don't know if you think I'm missing something or is this helpful. But that's what has been going on in that particular 1 year.
You're missing something.
What's that?
That's right, except that 299, there was an additional 494,000 that they put into their capital. So that surplus that year was actually closer to 3.45 than 2.99.
I could.
We don't want to, but it's
Yeah.
just, it's actually bigger than that. So it's really more than 8.2, and 8.2 is huge.
What I usually do, and I don't have the Excel file with me, Kev, and Lord knows the way I've been making errors recently, I could easily do that. I'm pretty sure I added that back in. Because taking that money for facilities, 1%, 2%, taking a piece of it, whatever it is, to me, that was not in the budget. So to me, it belonged in the yellow.
I
I
just,
thought it was more than that.
I
It was
think,
on top
and
of
the reason I'm
1%.
thinking of it, and maybe
It may
I'm-
be, Kev.
Yeah.
maybe I'm a
I think it
year
is.
off, is our Amity refund check, John, was in excess of 1.4 million, correct?
I believe so.
Which gets us our half, the total is 2.9.
Oh, so there's 2.9, and now you're saying,
Now
but they
there's-
still took the
they still took
500,
the-
so maybe this was even more.
But I could be a year off, when we got the 1.4, it might be a different.
What we could all agree on, though, is that you're not operating on a 1.8% increase,
Right.
okay? And we've been hearing some other people who are commenting like, oh, Amity's been paupers all these years. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, so there's that, all right? So what I summarize in the bottom, there's a significant difference between a percentage budget increase and the percentage from actuals to budget increase, whatever that number might be, Kevin. And if it was what you just said, it would be up even higher. And I think that was your point.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. So that same thing over the last 4 years. It wasn't a 1-year deal. You can see the 1-year deal over on the right here, all right, a one-time thing. But as you can see, the same analysis over prior years, and maybe I understated it, Kev, I'd be happy to double check, it's large. So while you can see that Amity has been and Dr. Byers was here telling us, oh, we've had these small increases the last couple of years, so that was her rationale for when she first came in January, said 4.92, if you recall. Okay? And unlike Dr. Brady and Dr. DeMays, who was here in prior years, I think all of us remember that through that January, February, early March timeframe, there were regular updates to that budget. Whereas this year, we saw none of those regular updates to that budget, which reduced it. In any event, this slide says the following. That goes on, it's been going on for 4 budget years, and the average 4-year increase over on the right, Ajit, as you can see by you, all right, over 4 budget years, the average actual percent budget increase at Amity has been over 8%. Over 8%. Referendum results. That's the data. We can see it by towns over on the left. The blue is the yes votes, the orange and the no votes. If you like to see it in a column setting, you can see them over on the right, yes and no. The percentages by town, yes, percentages, no. The overall 3-town total, and the percent of the total vote by town. It pretty much mirrored the population there, a little higher in the orange area. And the orange voter turnout was 3.2 times the number that voted
It's
last
a
year.
big number versus what we're used to, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. So 64% of the voters rejected the 3.99% Amity budget increase. In orange, it was 2-1, 67%. And as I mentioned there in the kicker box at the bottom, but in the bullet there, the final third bullet, the vote turnout was extremely heavy. All right, any questions on this one? Okay. Budget vote clarification, upcoming dates and FAQs. So this is a calendar. So if you're at home, you want to put something, we used to always put it in the refrigerator. I don't know how people do it these days. That's probably old-fashioned. But we have the next key meeting, besides the Amity BOE meeting tonight, as you can see in the red dot here, and also ourselves, is this Wednesday, the annual Orange Town meeting. Kevin, could you tell the audience what happens at that meeting typically?
That's when usually the Board of Selectmen come forward if there's any land to be, whether it be paper roads or land purchases. The town votes on the property tax bills, usually with motor vehicles being 1 bill instead of 2. Anything else that usually the Board of Selectmen comes out with that, requires a townwide vote. And then we just present any changes to our budget briefly, and that meeting adjourns to the budget referendum on the 18th.
Okay, John, you deal with this. Anything to add about that?
We covered it.
Team, anybody else on this slide? All right, and the final bullet over on the left, I think it's official. I don't know if it's 100% official, but the next the Amity referendum vote number 2 will be on May 24th, if I understand it. Joe, does that sound like?
They said 2 weeks, yes, that sounds right. Is that right?
That's the date we were given our registrars to prepare for it, so
All right,
yes.
thank you. All right, so everybody, folks at home, I'm going to have another slide on the orange taxpayer vote because, Kevin, as you brought up and we said verbally earlier, okay, but what I would like to do, are you good with this slide, everybody?
Yep.
Okay, good. What I want to do, this is a V1, so I'm going to take it off that so I can edit it. I came up with 4 frequently asked questions to kind of tee it up for us to edit. If I vote for the town budget, am I approving the Amity budget? I thought that was like you, Kevin. I think that's on people's minds. My answer would be no. The Amity budget is approved only after it passes a 3-town referendum vote. Is that fair? Or would you like to edit item 1
That's correct.
Kevin, you good?
If I vote yes for the town budget, right? If I vote favorably for the town budget?
No. If I vote for the town budget, am I approving the Amity budget is the question. I'm coming up a list of frequently
What I'm
asked.
saying is, should we say, if I vote favorably for the town budget,
Yeah.
am I approving the Amity budget? It's not clear that you're voting yes or no.
Well, I
If
use
I
the
vote-
word for.
Which means you're in favor of it, but I can see Joe's point.
I was thinking the
I
word.
got you.
Okay, so but let's do this. No, I like that. If somebody
For
has
versus against.
I
Yeah,
will.
right,
I
right.
will put this edit in here, Joe, because you know the rule. If one person in a group of 6 or 10
Keep it
has
clear, very
that,
clear.
over communicate, right? So we'll do that. So this is now V2, all right, and we're good with it. All right, and we'll make any other edits too on any of the other. Everybody good on number one then? Okay, item number two, I came up with this. If Amity budget gets approved by referendum at a lower dollar amount, because remember, in our town vote, we have a dollar amount there for Amity right now. But if the Amity budget eventually gets approved by referendum at a lower dollar amount, hey, what happens to the money? It came down, what happens to that bunk of money? So I said that the money goes back to the towns proportionally.
Well, that's not true, because they're never getting the
Never gonna
money.
get it,
So
right?
we're saving it by not spending it.
Right.
Could we say the money, the
The
towns?
money,
The money resides or maintains
Where the
in
budget
will
town.
stay
Basically,
within each town.
Right.
So it doesn't go back, it
Right.
stays. I like that beat a lot better. Thank you, John. Stays with the
Each
town,
member.
With each member town. yeah.
with each member town. I like that, Kev, thank you. I don't know why, I do that a lot, Joe. I have my towns want to be TI, I don't know how that happens. So so proportionals will not be
Right.
correct,
Gotta
right?
take that out, too.
Okay, thank you. Third one I came up with, and by the way, you guys can come up with more, nothing says it's four. What happens if the Amity budget gets projected, comma, for a while? And again, Kevin, whoever brought it up earlier,
Kevin? Yeah.
like a lot of times, okay? So here's what I said. Amity continues, because 2-1's pretty good against, right? Amity continues operating as normal. They continue. All right, budget votes continue until a budget is approved. Right? In 2001, 2002, it took 18 referenda, I guess, votes to get it passed.
I don't think that's true, though. I don't think it ever passed, and they just give up.
We ended
and
up
go
in the
back-
next year, the
and
next
go back
budget
into
started.
Go back to the previous budget.
Yeah, because they ran the whole
I thought it
year
did pass in the end. I thought it
I
did.
think it did.
after everybody resigned.
After, I
Yeah,
was gonna say,
after
after
everybody
everybody
resigned.
resigned.
After everybody resigned from the
All
board.
right, then I'm mistaken then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amity continues to operate as normal. Yep. And
That's the key I want people to know.
the budget.
There's no
yeah.
upheaval going on. It's
And-
going to continue.
And the budget reverts back to the current year or prior year.
Yeah,
budget.
that's
Sorry.
the next question.
That's the next
That's what
one.
I meant to say, Kevin brought up before. That's the important.
Okay, let's do 3 and 4 together then. How does Emory operate financially if a budget is not yet approved? I think someone would have that question.
Absolutely.
And the answer I put out, but you guys please edit, Amity would continue to be fully funded at last year's rate, 21-22 rate, until a fiscal year 22-23 budget is passed.
That's perfect.
I think that that's the way it is.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, are we good?
Yep.
Any other FAQs?
Yeah, I would like to add, what can MET do to avoid another referendum?
Nothing.
They're gonna have a referendum no matter what.
They don't have a choice.
Yeah.
It has to be voted
It
on.
has to be voted on because it didn't pass.
If they agree to the 0.4%,
It still has to be voted on.
That has to be voted on.
I mean the third referendum.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there won't be third referendum if they agree to 0.4%, which we
Well,
are
we don't know
proposing.
that.
Well, that's been out there for a while. I went over there to speak to the entire Amity Board of Education, and as the vice chairman of this board, who funds 50% or more of their budget and their needs, I was told I had 3 minutes to speak.
And they started the clock before the machine started to work. So your actual time on screen.
Listen,
40
I'm
seconds.
just
40
telling you,
seconds.
that's what I observed, and that's a fact.
Yeah, the gong went off. and that
You were
was
there,
it.
Kevin, right? Joe, you were there.
Yeah, we were there.
Right, you were there.
the
We
supposedly.
were witnesses.
Okay. All right, I tell you what, I am going to save this. This is now version 4, so I will have to update the one that I put up on the thing. I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. Okay, so that's that item on the agenda. Okay, so we've been hearing, Orange Board of Finance, what's your rationale for supporting this 0.41% Amity budget increase? Well, I'm going to present that rationale. So if anybody, and I hope you do, want to critique this, these are the slides. Okay? And they'll be up on the town website as soon as I change out the one that's there with the edits that I just made to this. We've seen this before, if you haven't seen it. It's the surplus slide. No matter how you cut it, you overtax residents when you have surpluses. Now, when you run Amity, you can't be running right at the margin, right? You know, you don't want to be, a dime over or under your budget. So if you go back in the data, and Kevin, maybe I don't have all of them correct, but let's assume that I'm pretty close. And I got this data from Terry Loomis, so I'm pretty sure she's the Director of Finance and Administration at Amity. In the last 4 years, the average surplus has been almost 3 million. We've seen this chart many times in this group, I know. Maybe at home, it's less. But when you look back at the 12 years prior to these last 4 years, the current administration, you see that the average surplus was a little under 1.2 million. And it too had variations, all right? You'll see that the reason that the 1.7 happened over here had a reason. There was a big reason back in 10, 11. That was when we had recessional type of things happening with the crash of 08, 09. So something's been going on. One of the things happening at Amity over the years is that they've had significant reductions in students. 425 fewer students than at their height back in 2009, 2010. And I remember talking to Dr. Brady back then because we were doing renovations of the school. And he said if I had more classrooms, I'd be able to have fewer staff. All right? Regardless, where it used to be, that's maybe not the best words, but what I did was say it was a 16.7% decrease. So where you used to have 6 people, now you only had 5. It may not be the best ratio to use, but that's what it means. That's the data. At the same time, and I've been noticing a lot of clarification, explanation, reasons why, we have needed 16 FTEs in 4 years. In fact, I think Dr. Byers, Jen Byers, specifically had a slide to this effect back in the budget presentation at the town budget hearing. But I'm amazed that for 10 years prior to that, the FTEs have been flat. Now, you have churn in the teaching staff. I know, I used to teach math, and I understand that. But it seems particularly funny that we have this massive 68 student decline or thereabouts for next year, and yet we're adding all these staff. Just seems off. And the actual dollars spent per student, taking it in from the point of view of, yeah, we're spending $25,000 plus on each student at Amity every year. Now, this is taxpayer cost or someone who's paying, not how we can't count debt service, so that's out because the Board of Education, a State Department of Education says that's how we calculate it. That's nice to know if you're comparing different districts that do and don't have debt service. But the fact of the matter is, taxpayers are paying that amount, period, per student. And it's going up 8.3% in the last year. Part of the rationale. If there was one chart I would select to talk to people about, it would be this one. And you have to really look close and think about it for just a second. And what it shows you is the actual dollar amount in blue each year on their budget increase. So whatever the percentage was, it was that dollar amount. All right? In each of those years, you see an orange bar right next to it. And that was the surplus in that year. Now think about that. In 2017, 2018, you had an increase from where you were to $603,464 higher. Oh, we needed that to make sure we could do our job at Amity. End of the year comes around, we have a surplus of $3,127,505. Let's see what happens the next year. 587,000 increase, 772, as you can see in the blue. And yet we had a 2 $3,367,820 surplus. And I'm not gonna read the next 3 years, I think you get the idea. But here's what it's saying. In every one of those years, those last 4 years, and you have the average on the right, if you had a 0% increase, zero, you would have had still the difference between the orange and the blue. And this chart has stuck in the minds of people who work on the Orange Board of Finance, who come and work with the Orange Board of Finance, new members, old members rejoining us. And in each year, the Amity school system provided excellent educational services for its students without a need for any increase in every one of those years. That goes back to the chart where I showed you the dollar increase, Joe, and the surplus kind of coming together to be their total increase. So Amity's surplus dwarfs what their budget increase is the header on the top of the page. They're doing the job, they get a small increase, and yet they still have massive surpluses. There has to be extra stuff in the budget, and it's being buried. Now, if you want to take a 15-year view, or 12-year view, I have to count them up, 3, 6, 9, 12, I guess it is 15 years, Joe. In every single year, although in the last few years it's been demonstrative, as we can see, but does happen to be, except back in the 15 years ago where it wasn't quite the same. You can see this it's been a recent phenomena in the magnitude, but not in the actuality. That the surplus is higher than the actual dollar increase that gets voted. Another thing you might want to consider is this, and that's a calendar of the school year from July fiscal year up to June. And this is in one of the articles, I think it was the third of the four articles I wrote for the Orange Town News. Because if I'm an elected official on the Amity Board of Education, and when you need to make a vote in February, all you have is the January data on what the surplus is in that current year. Because everybody's always worried, oh yeah, we had a lot of surplus last year, but this year's different. Well, I've already showed you the surpluses. And what happened when I went back and put in the data, so when the elected officials vote in February, they only have the January data. And, when the town budget members, the taxpayers vote, they only have the March data, because the April data doesn't come out till this week. There's a latter part of this week, and we already voted last Tuesday. So I was asking myself, well, what happens after that? Because I believe Dr. Byers made a point of it a couple of times in her presentation to us in January, that, everybody's been approving these budgets before. So I looked at the data, and that's what I found out. In business, we call it the hockey stick phenomena, whereby things are going along, and then all of a sudden they raise right up like that, right? And that's what happens. From March on to the end of the year, on average, to get up to that average of 3 million, you have to have big swings at the end of the year. So your surplus, or if you even know where to look for it, Joe, you and I get the monthly reports, but it's 3.3 times what it was back when people were voting. I find that odd. I can understand conservative policies on not wanting to say, well, we're going to have this surplus to be too big, but it just seems to be coincidental. Let me read this chart to you at home so you can kind of get a feel for it. On the left-hand side of this chart, where that arrow is over there, what you're seeing over here is last year, fiscal year 21-22. Now, if the surplus turns out to be one of these numbers, and I just slotted into an Excel document, 3 million, 2.5, 2, 1.75, 1.5, 1.25. That would mean, so you just subtract the 3 from the 51, 698, 207, that's where you get this number. And you just drag it down, and that's where you get all those numbers, Ajit, okay? Now, if you had, and the first budget increase, Joe, was 4.92, we landed on 3.99, the Board of Finances thinks that they can handle 0.41. Remember, we're explaining our rationale, so let me do it. First of all, what is everything underneath these categories here? Well, what it is the actual to budget increase. You take the surplus and you add to it the budget increase, we're 4.92. Well, this column doesn't matter anymore. But the 3.99, that would be a budget increase of 2,062,758 or thereabouts. And you add to it the surplus that we're starting to become visible now that we're in the last couple of months of the year. So the actual number of increase on terms of dollars would be this number here, 5,062,758, which would be almost a 10% increase if you had a $3 million surplus. But nothing guarantees that. And so if you had a $2.5 million surplus, it would be this 4562 number. If you had a $2 million surplus, it would be 4,062,758 number, or 7.9%. And I'm going to stay on this line. And similarly, if you had other surpluses. Remember, we're taxing our residents for this budget. So they're saying they need a 3.99, a little over 2 million. Now, we're not going to talk about this item in the budget, and if we took that out or should take that out, that's separate. We're just talking math right now. So let's talk math. If you had $2 million surplus, and you come over here with this red number, yellow number here, in the yellow box, a 0.41% budget increase would be in the amount of $211,963. That's the math. So the new budget would be this number, 51,910,170, which means you have 2 million surplus, you have 211,963. Lo and behold, you got 2,211,963, a 4.3% increase from what you actually spent in the calendar year just passed to the upcoming year, which would cover the yellow amount that you asked for. That's the rationale. So in the bottom of the page, I'm not sure in the room here you can see it. I'm pretty sure you can see it at OGAT because they have a direct feed. The OBOF action, we unanimously, all Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, which I happen to be one, all right, unanimously approved a motion to support an Amity fiscal year 22-23 budget of up to $51,910,170, an increase of $211,963, which is a 0.41% increase. What does it mean? I'm going to put it back on full picture, team. So here we have Orange and Woodbridge. You can see the Amity Finance Committee. That's who approved this, or the Amity Board of Education. Maybe I should have said that. All right. 3.99, which was it impacted Orange of 1,339,066. It impacts Woodbridge 921,748. And you can see the percentage impacts next to them in the 5% range. With the Orange Board of Finance, 0.41% increase that I've already explained the rationale for. That would mean that Orange would be impacted 406,839 increase. Woodbridge would be impacted by 318,482 increase. So, A 0.41% increase for Amity, what it means to the towns, would both satisfy the 2.1 million increase, the yellow, all right, boxes I showed you on the prior slide, and reduce the tax burden in Orange by 932,000, and Woodbridge by 603,000. Finally, you probably remember seeing this, and we showed it a little earlier in this meeting. We showed this one at the town budget hearing about where the increase in Orange of the increase of 2,253,661. And I'm reminding people, as were in your notes, Deb, that we edited earlier, 59% of this increase comes from Amity. Okay. Were you to accept not the 3.99% increase, but vote in the 0.41% increase, it reduces that number, as I said, by $930,000. So this chart would be updated. Okay? And remember what we talked about back, and I think this is the last one for this section, team. The things that we see out there impacting residents, I mean, we all know it. Inflation, the home, what was it, $1,100 when I had my oil topped off. Only 200 gallons, right?
Yeah.
Gas prices, inflation. These are the things that we think about when we're trying to get as much out of our tax dollars as we can. And we do not think that putting money that goes to a surplus is a proper use of taxpayer funds. Okay, so that's the section about our rationale. I would like to open it to the team.
I would like you just to go back, maybe to the hockey stick. Just in my thoughts. Because we get, we're unreasonable, we're anti-amity, we're anti-educational, we're not any of those things. As of today, because we got new information since their budget vote, and Joe will get new information next month if it goes down again, we'll be possibly in the I told you so area, but maybe not. Maybe this year's different than the past 4. But as of today, they have $860,000 in surplus. They're almost to the 2 million already. And historically, May and June are their biggest spike months.
There's the data.
Right.
So,
They didn't come out with a, by the way, why you don't have a yellow is we never got the data for yellow of May of last year. But
And
that
that's just
data
my
doesn't
thought.
come out until middle of June. We're not gonna have that data by the time we have the second referendum.
right. But as time goes on, that's what I mean. It's in their best interest to cut something tonight and get it back. Because if they prolong this budget, we're gonna have, all 3 towns are gonna have more current data to show you don't need it. Because that's our feeling when we came up with what we voted on, and we're heading right there. They almost have $1 million surplus already with the biggest 2 months historically left.
It almost argues for not even having the budget vote on Amity until such time as you have the prior year. I mean,
But we can't do that
Can't
because we
do
need
that,
to
yeah.
get out our tax bills and everything
Right,
else.
exactly.
God bless America, but we're gonna do that this year. Probably, right?
Yeah,
But anyway, I would like the team to weigh in. I don't mind writing articles and doing analysis, but Kevin, I know you wrote a very strong article. Maybe a few words from you would be useful, just in general and any way you want.
Yeah, I'm still comfortable with where we were at the 0.41% because of the fact that when you factor in the prior year actuals, your increase year over year is really like 4.3%.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty comfortable with that number. I guess the only question I would have is probably for Joe. I mean, Joe, is there anything in the Amity budget from a volatility standpoint, like pension funding that could go south? Obviously, if we head into a recession towards the latter half of this year, which is looking more and more likely every day, is there anything that needs to be adjusted on that 0.41? Maybe pension arc because of the asset, like you mentioned, the asset portfolio taking a major hit in the first quarter. Second quarter is probably going to be worse, that type of thing. I mean, other than that, I mean, I feel pretty comfortable, but I'll leave it up to you if there's anything else
Yeah,
that you see, yeah.
We didn't have much of a conversation tonight about the vote and the results and all of our slides, so let's see how the ABOE does tonight at their meeting. I'm very curious to see how it goes, for sure. So, I mean, the .41 is reasonable from our standpoint at a 4.3% increase. That's a pretty healthy increase.
Yeah.
Budget to actual to, so it's still reasonable. I mean, for them to get down that far, it's gonna take them a lot of pain to do that, which is going to have to cut these new positions, because there's not a lot of surplus in the medical right now. It might change in the last couple of months.
They would be cutting people that they do not have.
That do not have.
Those are all new
Those are new
positions,
positions, yes. Cybersecurity,
Yep.
school security, so,
No, they hired social media people at the 2 junior highs
yeah,
because we don't want anybody going to study hall anymore.
yeah.
We heard that. Now's not the year to do
No,
that,
no.
but
With the cost of living as it is, like we said, and the other thing too, we have to look at Americans' wealth. I think we've all have had some hits in our 401ks, IRAs, just the last month or so, and it hurts because we're not used to
Yeah,
that.
it's
It
bad.
hurts, it hurts. So that makes you feel less likely to go spend money, and,
plus,
consumer confidence starts
you
to
know, this is
drop,
a
and
board
that's a
of finance,
problem.
we're not a board of ed, I'm not
Right.
a board of ed person.
Right.
But those 2 positions at the junior high was, well, we need to offer something. Amity,
we're
the
doing
last
great.
I checked, and when I graduated, was a public high school.
Right,
You do the best, and they've
Right.
done a phenomenal job.
right.
You start saying, well, you have to have a class for everybody, and they might wanna, because they're going to study hall. Now you're Hopkins.
Yeah, right.
And that's, to me, no,
Yeah, you showed me the course catalog the other day when you were at my house, right?
it's huge.
I mean, I felt like I was going to college. Kevin, am I fairly presenting this? Please critique it.
No, I think so. As I said before, and as Kevin said, I think it's a fair indication, and the numbers are pretty, to me, they're pretty clear in everything that you've shown up so far about what they actually spent, with the additional funds that we're adding into them, that if they keep, their budget, if they keep the same amount of money as they had this year plus the extra month, they should have everything
enough.
covered.
It should be enough.
Should have everything covered. I don't.
And that is the increased positions too.
Yes,
That's-
yes.
Oh, they're
yes.
buried in the yellow
Yeah.
2062. What they're doing is they're not looking at the surplus as funding your increase.
Yes, that's correct.
Because that's exactly what it can do,
Right.
right?
That's what a disconnect is.
The other question I would have is,
On your
if they do something tonight to lower that, and then they have to have they're gonna have to have another referendum on the 24th, you said?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, would that information be coming out to the public, what it is, what they'll be voting on now, what their new budget number would be?
Yeah, we'd have to get it before it
Yeah.
happens, sure.
Yeah.
Once they approve it, we'd get it.
It's like 2 weeks.
I mean, we're not supposed to meet again as the AFC, but I'm sure we'll hear from Jen
So
Byers.
if they actually approve something tonight, a new budget number,
I don't
Which
think
they will.
I don't know if they will tonight. I don't know if
They
they're
have
gonna do
to.
it. Yeah, I mean, they're gonna talk about it.
if they do,
So-
John, where does that leave us? Do we now lower our budget by the new number? That's gonna go to referendum on the 24th?
No.
I don't think so. I think we just let that
Let it
number
go, yeah.
stay there plugged in.
Yeah.
The only
Until
thing
it's
we
fine with
might
that.
be able to do, and we may have to have a talk with Vin on this, if when we have our referendum on the 18th, we know the Amity number, if then we want to figure out the mill rate to that Amity number, but that could be dangerous.
'Cause it might
if-
change.
Yeah,
If
right,
it goes down again.
Right.
I think
I think
we
you
just
leave it-
let
leave
it
it as
stay
is.
what it
Yeah, leave
is,
it.
and if it goes down, the money just falls back into our fund balance. We'll pull it out of there, we'll do a change order to pull it out of there, so there's no confusion. We'll put it in like a capital account in our budget for
Pave
next
some more
year.
roads.
That or some other repairs on some of the buildings or
Oh,
something.
yeah. When you
know,
start,
I don't think, from my talk today with people, I don't think you're gonna see a big cut.
I would-
my
I would agree.
personal
Yeah.
They're gonna
opinion.
cut these positions, that's one way to
I
do it.
don't.
I think they're gonna
that's
come
happen.
across that,
Yeah.
that, you know, the public's not properly informed, and we're gonna go back with almost the same budget.
Well,
And that-
we're speculating, but
Yeah,
yeah.
you know,
I mean, I'm thinking,
we've seen that.
I'm thinking that if we get the message out to the voters about .41, and Amity comes back, just say they come back at 2 or 3, do we want people to continue voting no and no and no until they get to .41? That's what we have to be careful of with the message. I mean, it makes sense to us, yes. Can Amity do it? They could do it, but it's gonna take a lot of pain to do that. So I don't know if we want our
But
message
there's,
to be.
there's no pain
There's no pay.
if they have a
Yeah,
surplus.
I know that.
I don't know how you
that.
could say that when, I just
Yeah.
went through this document
I
here.
know,
Okay?
we know this, but for them to cut their budget by that much is going to cause a lot of pain and a lot of issues.
Joe, you're thinking about it wrong.
No,
I apologize.
No, I'm not, because Jim, when I say 2%, if they cut the budget in half to 1 million, 2%,
Sure.
that's a big cut.
Joe, let me try one more
It's
time.
already in there in the surplus.
It's already in there in the
Right, I know that.
surplus.
I think that's the
There's their
fact that they're
increase,
missing.
Joe, 2,062,000. You see the yellow up there? If you have a $2 million surplus and you have an increase of 0.41 of 211,963, you are covering all of that, even if I don't agree myself or somebody else doesn't agree
We
about
know
a
that,
particular
right?
position.
But are they gonna cut all of their increase and remove all of all seven, it's on, the mic's on.
It's not close to your
Not
voice.
close enough? Okay, so, I mean, they're gonna have to cut all 7 of those positions and then some.
I
No, they're not.
disagree, they don't.
I mean, well, I mean, the positions that they're
Joe.
putting in the new budget.
They don't have to cut anything.
They don't cut
Not
anything.
cut
They didn't have to
bodies,
cut-
just cut out
They had a
those.
$3 million surplus last year. We got 1.45 back. They don't need to do anything, and
don't have
that was
to
my
do it.
argument with that board, going back to Dr. Brady, when he, and I forget who was all here, because the town of Orange started paying for the police officer, because they cut it out of their budget. And it's like, it was, our share was
36.
50,000 or whatever
Yeah,
it
it
was.
was less, yeah.
And it's like, you got a $2 million surplus, it's already paid for.
Right.
And yet they cut it, because they spent the money somewhere else on his black, well, we won't go there. But it's already there. The money's there. The money was there for the police officer the whole time, because they had surpluses. You got out,
Right.
you know, a $100,000 position. Oh, okay, so our surplus is, you know, instead of 1.9, it's 1.8.
To me, it's a convenient reasoning and not looking at the math of the matter. If you have a surplus of $2 million on this chart, and you want an increase of your budget of a little over $2 million, and you're given 211,000 as in addition, you are covering everything that's in that budget increase. That to me that's, I mean, 7th grade math. All right, being an old 7th grade math teacher. And what you are doing, and I think Kevin, you said it well, you're basically taking the surplus out. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if we were having $300,000 or $500,000 surpluses, we wouldn't be having all these articles written and all this conversation. This is unfathomable from a certain perspective.
It's got too big. Okay.
Let's
So
see what
anyway,
they say, let's see
all
what they say tonight, man, see what happens. They could cut, yes, but will they? That's the question.
Well, John's saying he doesn't think so.
I don't think so.
Oh, wait a minute, Kevin, I have one more
Excuse me.
section. It's a
Okay.
quick one. There we are.
Ta-da.
All right. So how do you get to the OBOF documentation on the town website? In particular, how do you get to this presentation? All right. You go to the Town of Orange website, you click on boards and commissions, and I could actively show you this, by the way, in a second. You click on Board of Finance, and in the red box down there underneath our picture, there are 2 links. Go to the second one there, and click on OBOF or BOF documentation, and these files are organized by year, and then you click on the year and you'll get dates in a month, date, year format, and oftentimes it'll have the name. What I did is I would put the name of what we're doing that night, okay? You know? And we can edit anything that's there. all right, or add new information or whatever, but that's how you do it, all right? So just to role model this thing, since I have the town right here, you go to boards and commissions. All right, you go to your glasses. Board of Finance, you see our smiling picture, right? You go to the second one right there, BOF documentation. You can see the years. You click on the years. And in here, we have the materials that we're working on tonight. There's the agenda. And there's V3. We made some edits, so I already saved it as V4. I'll take this one down, put a new one up. But we only had modest edits when we had the FAQs, if you remember when we made those changes. Okay, so I'll do that later tonight. But that's as simple as you get to it, okay? Finally, Kev? I think that might be the last one I have for this section. Let me just see. Thank you. And the path forward is just, again, closing up whether the dates are. And, you know, if the Amity vote passes, whatever it is on the 24th, it will pass. If it doesn't, then there will be another budget, and it'll march on. That's why I put the June, July, August. I don't know where this is going. But I do think there's a need to scrutinize this whole thing. Thank you, Kev.
Thank you. Okay. Item 6, budget discussion. Vote to reaffirm budget amount and possible vote to set mill rate if the budget passes the referendum. Now, John, we do have an actual, because of the state changes, we're dropping a little more, so our actual decrease is 1.62 now.
Yeah, why don't we go
John,
through
would you
it?
just
if you could
guide me on
pull it
which
up.
Excel
Yeah.
file you want to do?
Go to the one that I sent you.
The mill rate,
The one that has the income on it first.
the revenue?
Yeah, let's go to
Thank you.
that one if we can, please.
Okay, so you got
Yeah,
some
we did
yellow
those.
here, so you,
Okay, so,
No, not yet.
so what happened is the budget that passed the state last week, they didn't take the governor's recommendation on the mill rate for the cars. We had put in at 29 mills, and we were gonna get 700,000 back from the state. What they did do, they raised the mill rate to 32.46, and instead of 700,000 back, we're getting 130,000 back. Jim, if you could go down a little bit, you'll see another yellow.
Not that one, keep
Not
going.
that one, keep going, right there.
motor vehicle,
That was 700,000, our original budget. That's the new number the state's gonna give us.
okay?
All right, so then we go, Jim, if you could then go to our mill rate calculation sheet.
That'd be the, yep,
Okay, so then on that calculation sheet, you can see under the cars on the left there, down a little bit. Jim.
yep,
Put in the new rate at 32.46, and that gives us a number.
right.
And then because the mill rate's going up on the cars, got to recalculate the mill rate for real estate and personal property. So our real estate and personal property mill rate went from 32.75 to 32.71. So it dropped another 4,
0.1%, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
Okay, yeah.
So that's-
1.2%, so
Yeah.
we're down, instead of 1.5% tax
Down a little.
decrease, it's 1.62.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually 0.54 now of a mill instead of 0.5, which it was
Right,
right.
half a mill.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a good thing, I guess.
It's in the
So
right
that's
direction.
good.
Yep.
Of course, it's a good thing. It
So
went
if
down.
you,
Now
so if
back
you
to the
say,
revenue sheet, John?
well, you see, the only thing is though, I'm a little concerned about the cars because the value of our cars have all gone up. So that 32.46 may give everybody an increase on their taxes on the cars. But
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know that to be a fact
No,
until
it's
the,
Oh, it'll
gonna
happen
be.
because the values are up like 35%.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you
And
go
then
by.
in 2 years, we're gonna be struggling with that number,
Right,
because the values are gonna reset to a more normal.
right.
And we'll probably lose the state payment also when that happens.
Yeah.
So then if you go back, Jim, to the summary sheet, the income summary sheet,
The revenue,
yeah.
okay?
In the yellow, then again, if you go up to the top,
Oh, okay.
very
So
top.
you got,
So
that's where you
those
got
are-
those new numbers.
Those are the new numbers in
All
there.
right, roger that.
And if you go down a little bit, there's another yellow.
Yeah, you did
in-
something to cell towers.
Yeah, because you can't hit the revenue number
Exactly
exactly.
right.
We
It
have
can't
a
be higher
little
than
more,
the- yeah.
so I
Piece.
threw the extra in cell towers. I understand we may have a couple of new, we're negotiating with a couple of new people on the cell tower, so that number may go up anyways.
Good
It
idea
was
not
higher to
to
begin
sell,
with.
sell those in 2005, Joe. I
Well,
remember
some of
giving
the
a presentation
contracts
then.
are coming due and we're getting a little more for 'em. Though we did lose, if you notice, if you look on the cell towers, we did lose Sprint on all the cell towers because them and T-Mobile
T-Mobile.
merged.
Merged.
So they are now pulling their thing off. If you go down the bottom, Jim, a little bit more.
Sure.
So there's 130 coming in from the state, and if you go
Yeah.
down the very bottom, it's the same number that we had, 78, 367, 690 of revenue.
So the revenue that we're projecting had a lot of, 2 or 3 balls that you had to jiggle.
But it comes back to the
But
same.
the fact of the matter
Goes back to the
is,
same number.
it favorably impacted, I remember doing the calculation when I finally figured out what was going on a little bit. So this is when low rate for last year, this was the decrease you talked about, and that's here's the new one that you had there. All I did is I just punched these numbers in so I could figure out what that is.
Yeah.
So on the town budget hearing, we said a reduction of 1.5, now it's a reduction, Kev, of 1.62, right? Which, whatever that means in terms of, the
Yeah.
impacts and stuff.
Tax rate, yep.
Okay. So does that satisfy, or is there anything else under this we need to do, John?
I think you should just reaffirm the budget again at those numbers.
Okay, well, I'll reaffirm the budget.
And if you want to
at that
set the
number.
mill rate tonight, that's up to you. If you want to wait until the night of the referendum, whatever you want to do, that's up to you.
That's process,
To
that's
you
you.
guys do.
2 years ago, that's what we did because of COVID. Last year, I think we still met, but I'd be, if we could, if we're legally allowed to affirm the mill rate tonight, if it passes, I'm gonna be there at 8 o'clock
I'm
to get
gonna
the
be
vote
there
count,
too.
but, I don't want everybody to have to come to
Yeah.
vote on something, and
It's
sports and
totally
the
up to
kids
you
are doing
guys.
stuff.
You set the budget at the amount, you know what the mill rate is. I mean, you could.
Might as well just set it.
Yeah, I think it has some merit to do it today. That way
Yeah.
people will have the information when they come
Yeah.
out to vote.
I mean, and then you could say again Wednesday night that the budget passes, this is what the mill rate is.
Right, okay, no, so let's do that.
So
Right.
I'd make that all part of your motion then.
Okay, I'll make that motion. It's the same amount of money, Deb, and that's the amount of $78,367,690 and an accompanying mill rate of $32.71 for real property and personal property. And John, do we have to say $32.46
Yes.
for the
Yep.
motor vehicle? So I'll leave those numbers up there, Deb, so you can get them right. I wouldn't, if I was writing it up in notes, Deb, I just don't forget about those decimals, just put 32 dot,
4.6.
you know,
yeah.
that kind of 32.71 and 32.46.
I'll second the motion.
Second by,
I think we should also
Yeah.
include that it's a reduction of 1.62%.
That this mill rate is a reduction of 1.26%
1.62.
compared to last year.
Right.
Last year's mill rate of 33.2.
no, let's not get crazy and make
Yeah, you
this
don't
in a
have to do that,
paragraph.
Well,
Yeah.
you tell me.
We've never
what
done
you
that in the
would
past.
Because
increase on
it's,
spending.
this is what it is, we're stating a
Right.
fact, that's the
Right.
mill rate, it's, everything else
Yeah, we've never done
doesn't
it that way.
belong in a motion, it belongs in discussion.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right, so we had a motion
We
by
stand
Jim,
corrected.
a motion by Kevin, is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, perfect.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay,
that also I should have said this before you voted, but that also reaffirms
The
that you
Emory.
made no changes coming out of our budget hearing.
Correct.
correct, and that would have to be another motion if we were to change something.
Right,
Yep.
as we've done in the past.
All right.
And we have in the past made some changes, 'cause
Yes, we have.
we forgot I think the community services van one year, got yelled at. Okay,
by the way, Kev, that, this is the email I sent out to everybody, Saturday morning sometime it was, can't tell what the time was. But the actual amount of the surplus right now, with 2 months to go, 2 of the heaviest months of surplus surfacing, is $865,000, which includes what's in what they term the surplus, and then what they have already moved over to a transfer account, assuming that that would be approved by the Amity Board of Education in August.
So, next is item 8, funding requests. John, allocate
No,
funds for
you
purchase.
skipped 7. We gotta do
I did?
7 first.
Oh,
Oh, to transfer of funds.
oh, sorry. My eyes are terrible. Discussion and possible vote on transfer of funds from general fund to capital fund.
So, John, is it this document here we want to talk
We
about?
have 2.
That's one. If you can read it, I've got
Do the-
Oakenquist, I
Yeah.
got fund balance.
No, do the
No.
fund balance, do that one. Let's start with that one right
Okay,
there.
thank you.
Nope,
Whoop.
other one.
Yeah, I punched it, but it didn't come up as full screen. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this is update on our general fund balance here. Made a couple of, I think a couple of changes. I increased the projected loss of the OV&A. I think it's more like 900,000 now. If I look at their numbers, they're down $1 million in cash, but their accounts receivable and their loss for bad debts don't get moved till the end of the year, so I think it'll be around 900.
John, would you explain the 700, what that is?
700's in our current budget of revenue to fund our current budget to balance.
You actually need 9.
Oh, this is,
That's right now, the year
That's
where,
right
that
now in the
ends in
current
June.
year.
We put 700 in there.
Yeah.
So
We used
technically, it's
700.
gotta come out
oh,
of there.
okay, okay.
Technically, it has to come out of there for
Okay.
now.
Yep.
But we're probably not gonna need it, it'll probably stay right where it is.
Right.
Okay.
but-
And we'll end up with 700 more.
Let you
Yeah.
accountants figure it out.
So,
I'm happy with that.
so then after the 7 and 9, that brings us down to 13.8.
Right.
I said to transfer to capital $1.5 million. I probably wouldn't be upset if you even took that to 2 million. So then if we go to the projected
Because we had
capital
talked about
account-
this at a prior meeting, but we
But we
never
never
took
did it.
action.
Never did it,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Right. If
Okay.
we go to the projected, if we go to the capital account now.
Okay, thank you. This one?
Yeah.
Okay,
And if
let me
we
get it
started
up a
with,
little bigger
we
for
started with
everybody.
2.4 million at July 1st per our audit.
Right.
I'm saying put in 1.5 million, that could change.
Yep.
Whatever you want to do. Then I listed everything we've taken out of here so far,
Okay,
and that goes right down. So that brings it down, if we have the 1.5, 3.2. And then we're going to talk about other capital needs tonight. And I didn't put what we're going to also talk about another one tonight for the Oakenquist Committee.
Yeah, public
So,
trucks, yep.
so you're gonna end up with around 2.3, I think, after we do tonight, if you move 1.5, which is still a good capital account fund, but there are some major things that are coming up in the future that we don't know what the dollar amount is. So we wanna hold off doing anything else till we do that. We got those flood studies coming back.
Right.
We have some problems with some oil tanks in the ground and a few other things that we don't know about.
so John,
Costs yet.
just so that everybody hears something on this one. What we're observing and what people at home are observing is 0 for paving, and yet my hunch is that we do have a plan for paving.
That's gonna come out of something totally separate.
Yeah, we're
Okay,
gonna
fine.
hit
We're
on
gonna
that
deal
tonight.
with that later.
Okay, so let me just add in here for folks at home, paving,
I came up with a better plan for that.
paving will come from a separate
My,
account?
everybody can have, their opinion. My opinion is stick with the 1.5, don't raise it until we get closer to our year end to see where we land with that 700. And if we're gonna have a surplus or break even, that 700 stays in.
So that
general
would be a
fund.
topic for which meeting coming up, Kev, in terms of the calendar?
Any of them. We could add money to the capital account at any time we want.
Right.
I'm not in favor of moving 2 million tonight. I'd stick with your 1.5.
All right. I'll
Because once
follow
we
your
do
lead.
it, we can't take it back out.
That's
If
right.
we need it in the general fund.
Okay.
So-
I'm good
Well,
with
I
that.
wouldn't come back and request you to move it to capital until after we get the audit numbers in December anyways, probably. there's plenty here to
Cover it.
Okay.
to cover anything we need. And you could always take it out of the fund balance too, if there's a.
Correct, if there's an emergency
or
for something else,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right.
And that's more for operations, if there was so that's why I'd rather leave the money in fund balance, because if something operational happened that we needed to do, and that's not a capital item.
Right.
We're not bringing it down too low where,
So
We have
what's
a lot
our
of-
goal in this section of?
So
the,
right now, if you agree on the moving 1.5 million, somebody's gonna make a motion to move $1.5 million from the general fund to the capital fund.
Okay.
I'll
do that
entertain a motion.
Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
motion by Kevin.
Motion.
Yep,
Second by Ajit.
good.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, unanimous.
Okay.
Done. Thanks, John.
Next one, John?
Okay, let me get to the next group of, give me
It's
a
like
second
funding
here to pull out
requests, is that
the.
it?
Okay, now we get to the funding request. Allocate funds for purchase of
Okay.
used public works truck, one hundred and
Okay,
fifty-three.
now this is gonna come out of the capital fund. What happened was,
John, which document should I open here?
you don't have anything on this. It's
I was like, I'm
verbal
looking
for
on
me.
it.
Okay.
No, you don't, you don't.
Oh, good, if we have it, let's use it.
What happened was, Jim went out on one of these auction bid sites, and there was a 2019 Mack dump truck, one of like what we buy, down in Pennsylvania, 5,500 miles on it, and it was up to bid.
Wow.
Apparently, they had purchased it, some little town in Pennsylvania, and they didn't need it anymore. The supervisor that was gonna use it retired. He had some health issues and retired, and they decided, for whatever reason, they didn't want it anymore. They put it up to bid.
5,000 miles. It's a pretty new.
Hey,
Driven by a little
it
old lady on
is.
Sunday.
We sent,
Yeah.
we actually, Jim actually sent two of our people down there to take a look at it. And it turned out to be one of our mechanics and another person. It turned out to be a very good piece of equipment. And to order these things now, they're a year out.
Oh, yeah.
So he went out and did the bid on it, and we got the bid on it, and there's a fee on it. And then they need to do a little work in the front. It's got a different kind of plow attachment than what we have. So they gotta change that out, no big deal. It's down there already, it's white, I think it's sitting outside the garage. So we need, a motion of up to $153,000 to pay for this truck and do some of the attachments on it,
John, before I make that motion, or any.
out of capital account.
How good a deal is this? In other words, what do we perceive the value of that to
So
be?
the last truck we bought was, I believe, $200,000.
Correct.
Yeah. We
So
put
we
two,
maybe say 50 grand or more.
yeah, we usually put 225 to 250 in for our trucks in Marion. Same thing, dump
And
trucks.
how old is this
Brand new.
This truck is 3 years old,
Yeah.
55, it's 2019, 5,500 miles.
That's pretty good.
This is
Yeah,
steel.
It is.
Yeah.
Talk about doing more with less.
And
Oh,
it's actually got some features on it that are better that we don't usually buy. So it's it's got a little bigger
So they'll be
engine.
fighting down there. Who gets to drive that truck?
No, because it goes to the guy to the truck we're getting rid of. That's how they do it down there.
Oh, so there's no seniority or anything? It's,
No.
oh, wow. What a world.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll
entertain-
make that
go
motion,
ahead.
that's
Piss
fine.
off more people.
Kev, you wanna go in?
What's
motion
that?
by Jim,
No, no,
You
second.
made it?
Second?
I'll second it, Chair.
Yeah.
second by Kevin.
Out
Any
of-
further
out of the
discussion?
cap.
Out of the capital
Out of
fund, yeah.
Capital, yeah.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, unanimous.
Johnny, you're on a roll.
Okay, the next one, we need to make, purchase of firearms down the police department. And that'll be, $50,000.
Okay.
Where's that out of the capital fund?
Oh,
That's-
here's what I want you to do with that one. Jim,
This one?
I think, yes.
Yep,
Bob has already suggested where the money could come from, right there. He's
Okay, the
got-
last two add
they're-
up to
right,
50,
they're
right,
two-
right there.
They're two salary accounts
Yep.
that the money's surplus for the year. So he suggested that, and I agree with him, but I can't do that without Board of finance approval because they are salary accounts.
So we have to transfer it, and that gives
I
him,
just transferred out of those accounts into the ammunition account where he's gonna purchase the guns.
so what would be, what we
Your
have to
motion would
apply?
be
The
to
sheet.
transfer, as per the sheet presented, from utilities clerk salary and secretary salary to ammunition accounts.
I'll make that motion, just as John said, that,
Okay, motion by Joe,
I'll second it.
second by Kevin.
50,000 even? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's up to
And
us.
that's gonna cover his ammunition, his new
The holsters and the
holsters that
firearms.
he's gotta
God
buy
bless.
and all
Which
that.
Kevin seconded, I'm sorry.
Moffett.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. Unanimous, great.
All right, you good with this one now,
Right
John?
behind you.
Yep.
I'm coming up on the tail.
Okay, now the
Item
next one
C,
is to allocate $1.4 million to pave the roads this year. Where we're gonna take that out of is American Rescue Funds. And the reason we're gonna do that is it's gonna make my life a hell of a lot easier. I'll admit it right here, because the bookkeeping for that will be a lot easier than 10 different projects at smaller rates.
May I show everybody at home my visit with Donnie Foyer? He showed me for the second year in
As
a
long as
row
you're
all
putting
these
that
roads.
up and he's doing those roads.
Doing that
yes.
Andrew Lane and Pride Drive right now.
Yep. So anyway, there were 24 of them, or maybe one was a half, so maybe it should be 23 and a half, as you can see on number 11 on the May-June, the left-hand side. All right, and he rode around, showed me these. I picked his brain about, the different types of, methods of putting things down. It's very interesting. But anyway, 2 phases, spring and the fall, $1.4 million. So we are doing a lot of paving. It's just the money's not coming from capital. It's coming from the American Rescue Fund, apparently. And just on average, take the 1.4 million, Joe, and divide by 24, and you can see it's about, on average, big streets, small streets, all that, about 60 grand per street. So, if it were true that Amity found a way to use their $2 million projected surplus plus their 0.41%, that saving of 930,000 would pay for 15 more roads being paved. Just saying. Rather than having the money in surplus. So I know there's a lot of people, a lot of selectmen, for example, who champion road paving, and we're all for it.
okay.
Would you put that
Item
classified
9.
under revenue loss?
Discuss and possible vote, we voted on that, right?
I'm only getting 4 million, so I got plenty.
Did we voted on the, we gotta have a motion on that.
You
Jim
gotta
went
have
off on
a
a
motion.
tangent. We need a motion
I
to
did.
pay for the 1.4 million.
Out of American
ARPA
Rescue
funds.
Funds.
I
American
would
Rescue.
definitely make
American
that
Rescue.
motion.
Okay, motion by Jim. Is there a
I'll second.
Second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, unanimous. Great.
And by doing this, this frees up capital money to pretty much do whatever we need to do.
Right.
That's
Don't get
our
carried
money.
away. Whatever we need
Maybe
to do,
I'm
there's a
not.
lot we need to do in
No,
this
but I
town,
mean,
but-
there's no restrictions on it like there are a
Right.
little
For
bit on the
ARPA, yeah.
rescue funds.
projects going. You got like 2, right?
Yeah.
Discuss
I
and
had enough
possible
trouble
vote to
with
fund
three
items from the
funds, too.
Oakenquist Capital Planning Committee. Item 9.
Okay, Johnny, I think that's,
Okay.
that's a
Yeah.
PDF, I'm pretty sure.
No, I think I sent it to you in an Excel sheet.
Oh, okay. You see it? Capital, oh, here it is, yep.
Okay.
Doesn't look like what we,
Is
What,
that this one?
what?
Oh,
what-
okay,
what
you didn't
happened,
use
Jim
the,
and- Jim
okay.
and I sat down and we went over the Oakenquist list. And we pretty much came up with a list that is our recommendation to do for this year. I have one change though before we go on. Jim, if you go to the smart board.
Yes, down
Under-
here, yes, sir.
Under 4, put in there 25 units and change the dollar amount to $125,000.
Wait, hold on. Smart board replacement?
Yeah.
So it's
take
going from
that.
20 grand to 125?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, we talked to Dr. Scarpetti, and he has 50 of those he's trying to replace.
Yeah,
And Jim and I thought it'd be better to speed it up a little more.
okay,
So we
125
decided-
units?
No,
125,000.
25 units at
Ah.
$125,000.
So make this
They're $5,000 a unit. They're basically that TV that you had in the cafeteria, only they get to touch it.
Yeah.
They get to touch them on screen and do some kind of writing on the screen. They're a little more sophisticated.
Okay, so now, when we make this change, John, right, are we changing anything in any of the other documents that we are
Well,
already
that'll
looked at?
then,
The 301's gonna change.
yeah, and these numbers will then go into the capital account, so that'll bring down the capital account, the
All right,
balance
so just
that
for,
we were
just
showing.
for, since this was a change, let's make that yellow.
Yeah, because we have the
This-
projected use of 301, that's going up now.
Yeah.
Okay,
It'll
that's
go
the
up
number.
105, right?
Yep.
Right, so it's 406, is that everybody's good?
406, right.
So when we go back over to here, John, I know you'll eventually do it and send it to us. Where do we make this edit?
It'll then go in the red there, all those items. It'll just be a continuation, so you see all the items that we've funded.
So did we
It'll
have?
come on, it won't be in the same thing with the truck, they'll both move up into the red, into that area.
Oh, okay, okay, so you wanna, let's just do it together, huh? How about we copy it, stick it up in
Yeah,
here?
you can stick it in there.
Okay, and instead of 301, we'll fire in here
406.
406, does that sound like
406.
right? Right?
All right,
Okay, and now we take
out
it
of
down
there.
here, we'll
Take
just
it out
delete
of
these
there.
two, right?
Right,
Okay. And then you still, now you get 2733488, so let me do this. You know how I am, it's just, the mind just
Well, does
works
anybody
this
have
way.
any questions on these?
I mean, I could
So
go
we're-
over them with you.
Well, you know, it's just, it's up to any, you know, if anybody has questions or the things that you want approved in the first
You
selectman
can
wants
see,
approved.
you can see on the left where they were on the Oakenquist list,
Priority wise?
priority-wise.
And Jim, his name is spelled with an I, Quist.
And you can see down the bottom, we've already
Joe?
funded some of the things on the Oakenquist
Right.
list. I didn't
So
want
this was
anybody to
that thing,
lose sight
that
of
document, that's the one we kinda colored up when we were.
Right.
Okay,
The Sand Pro, they use it on the ball fields. They had a choice, Park and Rec, we gave them a choice, either the Sand Pro or a new lawnmower. The lawnmower, if they ordered it tomorrow, would be here a year from now, so they picked the Sand Pro. The computer printing, that's Paul's life cycle management. He doesn't
Yep.
want to replace all the computers every year. He'd like to do that on a schedule. East Wing Air Conditioning, that's over in the Park and Rec, community service area of the building.
oh, okay, I see what you did, John, you
The
you
gym-
put this over here.
The gym floor is, everybody knows the gym floor needs to be replaced over there. If you noticed when you voted last week, the painting's done, and Jim got a lot of compliments on the lightening of the painting over there. The pool, the sump pumps are down in the basement. When the basement floods, these sump pumps are supposed to pump out the water. There's two down there. One's working, the other one doesn't work at all. The one that works sometimes. They've had to go to Sears and buy hand sump pumps to do it, down in the basement of the pool. So we're gonna fix that, hopefully during their shutdown down there. The school, the flooring at Racebrook, they've spoken about. Ceiling tiles at Turkey Hill, they've spoken about. And then the smart boards. So they'll have, after this replacement, they'll have 25 more smart boards to do, whether
Will they
next
give
year
them
we
up?
fund them all or not.
They don't use those in kindergarten, do they, pre-K?
I don't know, that I don't know. I think he said they have 80 altogether
Okay.
in the upper grades.
So you're looking for a motion to approve $406,000 from the capital fund for the items you've listed.
Right.
So 8 items, I think you have. John, where's this 213 coming from?
That's just the school.
That's-
I broke it down to
Oh,
what the
okay,
town
so
was, what
you're
the
saying
school
town
was.
total kind of thing?
Right.
Oh, okay, so why don't we do that? That way I can, my brain kind of says, oh yeah, how about that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the 406.
Motion by Kevin, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, unanimous.
Now, I don't know if you just want to go through the Oakenquist list,
Now?
Is
The
it
rest
right
of
over
it?
here?
No.
just to look at it. Okay,
No.
that's fine.
You mean this one, it's on the.
We took your
Yeah,
recommendation
no,
based on priority
we're good.
items, yeah.
So John, here's what I'm gonna do here. I'm just gonna 05, 09, 22, OBOF. All right, so that's, so if I do that, and I save this as B2, and I ship it back to you, I mean, if it's useless, then you'll tell me that, but. that's
John,
usually how we
revenue,
do documentation.
expense reports for April 2022, is there anything anybody has questions on, or
The one-
anything you want to point out to us?
The one thing I could tell you is on the revenue is we've collected now $183,000 in taxes above what we budgeted.
What'd you
So
budget at,
that's-
98.25?
So that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's good. And we still have 2 months to go.
Yeah.
We usually get a little more in June when people come in to pay their new year and they find out they have some outstanding balance there.
So, this is, again, how we read it, John. We're under or over? It looks like we're under. Right?
But you can't look at that number because we have in the revenue budget, let me go to my page, I wrote it for myself. We have 700,000 in fund balance, you gotta add to that. We have police of 100,000.
No, but I'm just
We have
saying,
park
that
and-
if I read the document,
If you read the document, we're still 164, but we're
But
really
we
not.
have- there's a
because
lot of
there's-
goodness
there's
that we
the
can
End of the
still-
year,
Roger.
revenues that gotta come in.
well, that begs that we should have, we'll see what we have over here at expenses. Is this the cost report? It must be that.
Expenditure's usually always underrun too, typically, right, John?
Yeah, we're under quite a bit right now.
So I'm
Okay,
saying,
John, you have some handwritten stuff here. Let me get it fired up so you can address it, talk to it, however you want to do it.
That's just the adjustments we have to make for Raceburg Country Club for
Okay.
paying it out at the year. So
Okay.
I've just adjusted the numbers.
So
to
we
get
are
a better
83%
idea.
of the way through the year from an aggregate point of view, 10 out of the 12 months, right? But some of the stuff, as we've talked about many times, such as the category above, they're way, well, it's 84% actually. It turns out that the principal and interest, I would have thought that debt was more earlier than that. How are you feeling about this, John?
We're gonna have a little surplus on the expense side and not a heck of a lot to speak about.
Okay,
There's still some big things in there of that $9 million still to spend. You still have Amity in Orange Board of Ed numbers to go. You still have that last payment on the interest and principal to go.
yep,
We're gonna have some savings in the police account for salaries.
yeah, there's the Amity and the.
Yeah, so you
Orange.
get 3, 4, it's about half of what we still have to spend there. We're gonna have some savings in the employee benefits, though. I will point out there, you have a negative $55,000, that'll go a little higher there. Those are the 2, police we had to retire on a disability, and if you look in the budget starting July 1, we do have a line item for that.
Okay,
The workman comp premium there, that shows a negative 102.
yep,
That really should be offset by the encumbrance. Somehow we didn't get that right. We'll fix that by the end of the year for the
Okay.
audit.
okay,
We should have some savings in Social Security and Medicare because we budget those accounts for the total salary for the year, and when we have police officers or other people leaving, then we don't replace them, you naturally have a little savings there.
Mhm.
Pension, other, we'll probably have a little savings there, that's the 401. So same thing with that, when people leave, you don't have to pay their match.
Okay.
I don't know of anything else that jumps out at you, if anybody has any questions.
But you're saying that you feel good that we will be under by, not a big amount, but you're comfortable with
I think
that?
we're gonna be, have probably $500,000 surplus, and we're looking at
So
some.
we're not freezing things.
Yeah,
Not next
we're
year.
gonna look at some, encumbrances and close some encumbrances too.
By the way, Kevin, you made a comment earlier when we were back talking about Amity, and Joe, I remember both of you were commenting. If you remember back in the 2009, 2011 timeframe, Dr. Brady put a freeze on the Amity spending internally when we were really coming into a bad situation there. And as I recall, it saved over $1.5 million back at that moment in time, because he put a freeze.
It was right after the downturn, 2008 downturn.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, about a year, it took a
Yep.
little while,
Yep.
and then the impact on people taking action, and it was a significant amount of money. You know, I don't know if it ended up in the surplus and then ended up in that, one of your favorite things, Kevin, that they,
Right.
Black box
yeah,
theater.
that's the one,
Yeah.
yeah, so anyway, so the point is this: if and when there is these kind of draconian downturns, there are levers to pull at Amity, as demonstrated by what Dr. Brady did back in
Right.
the day.
And we did it here.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, we did the same thing,
Yeah, because of the loss of revenues, basically. Right.
yeah.
We did it, and we were more draconian back with one of those budgets when we gave people furlough days and all that other stuff. That hopefully
Turned out
that
to be
never
a mess,
happens again.
yeah.
Oh, and if anybody wants to stop down at Brindley Field, the new scoreboard finally came in last week and was installed, and I believe Amity's playing there Monday and Friday night of next week, so.
Really?
They'll be in action.
Nice, Brindley.
Hold on, I gotta write this
After all
down, I
these
wanna
years,
see,
let's go.
I wanna see Amity,
This
and I
coming
also wanna
Monday?
see that,
Yeah,
I have an MIA
Did they
on
win
my
today?
pen.
yes,
They're 13-0 or 14?
14.
Wow, 14-0. Wow.
They play your alma mater.
I'd rather
tomorrow.
they lose one soon, rather than get in the playoffs without having lost, you know, I mean.
All right. Item number 11.
Where's PJ?
Just make a motion to adjourn.
Come on, Kevin, you gotta be PJ, you gotta.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Kevin, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ajit. Any further discussion? There's none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, meeting adjourned at 9:31.